What I suggest to people when they're starting, because of the knife is clamped, we don't know if we're parallel to the knife. We don't know the angle on the bevel, if it's 20 degrees or 25 degrees or 18 or 10 degrees. So we don't know what angle to set the guide rod. So we put the marker on there and we scrub it to look at how we're obliterating the market, and we use that. If it's at the top that we're obliterating it, then we need to come down more to be more parallel, to move that scratch pattern down lower on the black. When we're matching it perfectly, that black marker from the tip of the edge down the base of all the way to the shoulder, you paint that whole bevel. When you got it matched, it will remove that whole bevel for the most part. And then when you use your stones, then it smooths the bevels to that plane. So then you're matched. When we're not matched, we don't know where we're working, so it's very hard to predictably sharpen the knife. And it sounds like you never got to that point where you know where you're working. So that's why I say match it. Now, when you're starting, it's better to start at a wider angle, because then you're resting on the edge. You may only be resting on the edge like this. Say this is a 25-degree bevel. So if you go wide, you're resting on the edge. Then as you scrub, you can bring it in to now be parallel. Excuse me. Whereas if you set your number first and you may be down here on the shoulder and you have to remove all that steel, to get it to line up. You may be starting down here and you have to remove all this to get it to line up, to change that angle, to reprofile the knife. So when you're starting, if you start wider, you're on the apex. So you're already feeling a burr because you're working just the apex. And then you can walk your stones down by moving the angle closer, making it more parallel, a lower, more acute angle. So start out wide, get a feel for where you are working your knife, and then, I'm having an allergy attack. So walk your way down, start wide and walk your way down. If you start at an acute angle on a wide bevel knife, you'll be working way down here, and it will take you forever to remove all of that steel to get up to the apex before you ever draw a burr. So for ease of recognition of where you're working and what you're doing, start wide, dial it in. Don't have to do too much, just enough that you can see that you're obliterating the marker on both sides, and then dial it down until you match it. Once you match it, then you match side for side, and then you go to town. And then when you're scrubbing alternatingly, then you can feel the burr flipping from one side to the other. So you know you've moved the steel up to the apex. And you've walked it in to match the bevel. Then you're ready to sharpen. And then at that point, you're working both sides alternatingly, simultaneously. And then it's a question of strokes, edge trailing or edge leading, and how you use those that will give you your sharpest edge. But until you match that bevel, until you know where you're working and get physical contact on that bevel, you're shooting in the dark. We're trying to change something that we don't know where we're coming from to something that we know what we want. We're picking an angle to start with, 15 degrees, 18 degrees, 20 degrees, whatever. And we're trying to change an unknown piece of metal to match that angle. What I'm suggesting to you is you match it first so that you're in full contact with it. Then at that point, you're able to change it. Instead of starting blind and working on a knife that you don't know where it is, you could be working forever and never get the hang of it. I hope this helps. Thanks, John.